Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Super Deluxe Gamescast. It's Thursday, January 19th. I'll go and say, if you weren't already aware, we are a gaming collective, which is a fancy way of saying podcast focused on gaming and nerd culture. So if this is your first time here, we greatly appreciate you. And
if your first time here is the Game of the Year show, you're in for some shit.
Hey, you know what? You never know. I hope everybody's doing okay tonight. I hope everybody in this panel is doing okay tonight. I hope everybody listening is doing okay. And just like Derek said, tonight we are going to be talking about our games of the year and our runners-up for 2022. I also real quick want to just kind of broadcast that the other week we published our interview with Ben Starr, who is the voice of Clive Rossfield in Final Fantasy 16. You can find that on our YouTube channel. And Ben is just an awesome person. So
yeah, Ben's a good dude. It was a good interview.
Please just time. Please. So Finn, to answer your question in the Discord chat, I'm sure Britt will be along here momentarily. She's in the call. She's just got to hop in.
Britt is, as always, going to be approximately 5 minutes late.
She's going to be fashionably late.
I think we should just spoil it already. Look, the Quiet Man for the fourth year in a row is SDGC's.
You're running game of.
That's it.
Actually, my game of the year for 2022
game of the millennium
is Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9, the Vita port.
Yeah. Hey man, hey! That
anyone who hates that game is an anime fan on prom night. All right,
that shit is still coming. It's still coming.
They haven't officially canceled it.
They have not canceled that shit.
Inafune is known for delivering on things, right?
Yeah,
that's his whole thing. Yeah,
for sure.
That shit's gonna come out at some point. Derek,
so
do you want to? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to break down for everybody how this is gonna go tonight?
Yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. We have already collected, and Finn has made a set of graphics for each person that detail their game of the year, their runner-up, and if they had any, up to 3 honorable mentions. What we are going to do, we've already collected, done the stats. Scientists have broken down the categories, and we are going to start by talking about our games of the year. We have a few games that were selected by one person each. We have one game that was mentioned multiple times in other people's, honorable mentions or runners up. And then we have one game that multiple people selected as their game of the year. So we're going to start small, work our way up. Well, there could be a couple of different things. Don't be a fucking poopy pants. We're gonna work our way up and talk about each of those games, and then based on the time we have left in tonight's show, we're going to give each of the 7 of us, again, Britt will be here, a chance to talk a little bit about their runner-up and their honorable mentions and why they picked what they did. Yes, Rar, add "don't be a fucking poopy pants" to the Discord rules. If you're not in the Discord, there's a link to the Discord. Please join it.
It's like magic. Technology's wild.
I'm almost good at this shit. Who could have thought? I'm not. Now, I guess without further ado, and I think it's okay to get started without Britt if we start on some of the smaller ones, because she lands in the one of a couple people who voted for a specific game that we'll save for last.
To be fair, though, Britt's runner-up is definitely one of the lesser chosen games. So.
Yes,
I would say so. Yeah,
Britt. Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We're not saying names. We're not spoiling shit. We're not spoiling your favorite movie on this podcast.
Snitches get stitches, motherfucker.
Yeah.
John's favorite game was.
You have to drive to Kentucky to stab me, though. So.
You think I won't?
You've been here, so.
That's true.
John's got shooters in every corner. What are you talking about, dude?
I've already
got men on the street. On every street.
Positions on every roof surrounding your home. All I have to do is Derek. All I have to do is say the word. Give the order.
What is it? What do you call it? The Manchurian Candidate thing. What's the word that you have to say? It's like some Final Fantasy reference.
Derek's gonna walk out of his house tomorrow morning, and he's gonna step out. He's gonna breathe in that more. It's not that nice cold crisp air, and then he's gonna get a ring on his phone. And he's going to see that it's me, and he's going to pick it up, and he's going to swipe the answer, and he's going to say, "Hey, bud, what's going on?" Like he always does when I call, and I'm just going to say green light and hang up the phone. And after that, who knows what happens?
Hope you
Yeah.
do.
All right, we're communicating with Britt.
That's a
Communicating.
whole lot of things to say to disguise from the fact that Destroy All Humans was your game of 2022.
Well,
With a runner-up being Garfield Lasagna Party.
it's the nihilist.
Is that a
Dude,
real
can we-
game?
Yes,
It is.
Yeah,
It's a
it came out on
Garfield Mario
it came out
Party clone.
on my 25th birthday. It came out. We
Oh
should have
my
bought
God.
it and played it.
All
We could've
right,
played-
all right. Who's going first, motherfuckers?
Let's
Like, who-
start. I want to start with Jeff's Game of the Year pick, which is a game that technically came out late last year. Well, late 2021, I believe, but it got its PlayStation port in 2022. So I'm
We'll
going to
give him
fucking
credit.
count
He gets
it.
credit. He gets
I
credit.
fucking count it. So Jeff, why
Played it on
don't you start
Xbox,
us off?
but we'll go with that.
Yeah, sure. It's the
Yeah.
same. It resets for everybody.
Are you going to bring up his graphic?
No, we're going to save that stuff for the end.
Oh, for the end. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my game of the year for 2022, it's, we usually do the games we played, not necessarily the release here, which is what Derek's alluding to. So I didn't play this when it came out. It's a small little game called Unpacking that I played on Xbox, and it's a hard game to talk about because I think everyone would probably look at it and think what I thought, like, oh, this looks like a cute little distraction. It's charming. It's got a nice art style. It's got really good music. It'll kill some time, and I'll just take things out of boxes and put them on shelves. But I think the hard thing to really illustrate is how uniquely and how well it tells a really, really great story.
Yes.
So to do that, I have two boxes here.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yo, he
Jeff
brought
going that
the
extra
display.
fucking mile.
Jeff is this is MLG shit right here, Jeff.
Oh my god, let's fucking go,
MLG
buddy.
And I'm going to
unpacking.
describe them for anyone who's listening as well. And I'll get through this very quickly, so you don't need to worry. I'm not going to take half an hour here. So I want you to just imagine I've got two boxes here. One of them would be something I would pack if I was moving when I was 10 years old. And the other one might be something I pack this year when I'm moving. Right? So type of things. It's amazing how much you can learn from just going through someone's possessions. And you'd be surprised, right? So, I've got Ferris Bueller's Day Off here. So you get a little bit of insight into my movie taste. I've got a postcard from Ottawa, which, might indicate either I visited Canada or I'm from Canada.
Which is
Had to give a shout out on the podcast. We've got a original Black Label copy of Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy VII Black
8
Label
minutes.
Bros.
You might think this person's a
minutes.
gamer. You might think they're a gamer.
I'm just glad that Derek remembered to mark the time.
But I've also
Yeah.
got a soccer trophy here and some soccer medals. I've got a graduation pamphlet from 2005, so you can kind of get an idea how old I am when I finished high school. I don't think this has ever been seen before. This is a picture of me at the skate park when I was
Hell
12.
yeah, man.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
So it's
Hell
the zero
yes.
skater. It's the zero skater.
A
But
Cub
are you
Scout
wearing
badge
Jinkos?
and this is a copy of a video I made called Solid Gear. In no way a take on Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
Please, can we play that for an after hours?
I do not have a VHS, but
I'll get you one. I will
so-
pop it.
John
know,
wants to see that tape.
So what can you infer from this, right? Like, I play a lot of sports. You can get an idea into my taste in movies. You can get an idea how old I am. Obviously I'm making homemade videos with friends. There's a little bit of the creative side there. I've got a cat toy here, so perhaps I own a cat, right? So, I mean,
Perhaps
so that's
I
it.
own a cat. Who
that's
knows?
interesting on its own, right? To take these things apart and get a peek into someone's life. But what's really interesting is what this game does is you follow the person through their life and unpack different boxes at different stages in their life. So what's actually the most interesting is how things change. So, in
Hey,
the box when I was
Brett.
younger, I had a cat toy, but in this box now, this is a paw print of our cat that passed away. Right. And that's fine. But look at the change in the tone, the change in the emotions from, oh, this person's got a cute cat to, oh my God, I got to find a place to put the little memory of them up on a shelf. Right. It's just a picture, me and my wife getting married. Like that's a big life change. But the other interesting here, so I've got another video game, an Elder Scrolls collection. So some things stay the same throughout your life, right? Sometimes you keep the same hobbies, you keep doing the same stuff. I'm still playing games now that I was when I was 10. But other things changed. Like I've got, I have just pulled out some soccer trophies and stuff there. I don't have any of those anymore. What I have is a resistance band and some compression gloves and a list of physio exercises because life catches up with you, right? Things are different when you're 35 than
Life
when
finds
you're
a
12.
way.
I can't skateboard anymore because my ankle's destroyed.
I'm
I've
sorry
got,
about that, Jeff, but I was paid to do it.
anti-anxiety medication, right? Things change.
Can I just interrupt? Can we discuss what's happening right now?
Yeah,
'Cause I
we're
just
talking
came
about the game.
into-
We're talking about the
like-
game Unpacking.
I figured, but like it just I don't know.
You
It's-
came
should
in.
not-
Jeff
you
is
said that.
Jeff is
having
actually
show and tell time.
he's selling
Honestly,
the
no,
game
damn it.
Unpacking in the
You
best
guys-
way possible.
You guys fucked up. You should have just said that he got a mysterious package in the mail and
He's
he's
sharing,
describing the
he's
context of
sharing
it.
it with us.
I didn't see you pipe in.
Yeah, John.
Because I like to let the mystery just
Guys, yeah, you're missing
it.
the point. Is that
Anyway,
there's a lot of depth to this. You could say there's a lot to unpack here.
God
Get the
damn
fuck
it.
off this
Fuck off,
podcast.
God
Finn.
damn
Fuck
it.
you.
Fuck you.
I hope
I
they shut
missed
the
I-
server
I liked
system
that one,
down,
Finn.
man.
I'm gonna-
Fucking asshole.
Jesus
I'm gonna back
Christ.
you up on that one.
All right,
I-
Jeff, please continue.
No, that's all right. So, I mean, that's basically it. I just, and this is just 2 boxes. This is just 2 boxes. The game, has like 7 or 8 different years throughout the main character's life. And some of the later levels, there's like 50 or 60 boxes. But just imagine how much you can infer and how much you can learn about someone from that. And just, like I said, the way it tells the story, the things you can infer from not only what's in the box, but the changes from year to year, the things that stay the same, the things that go away, and the things that return. There's little things like you can see they pick up hobbies. And a lot of the items are very visible, like recognizable. So there's like a walking cane and things like that. And then one of the fun things is like the movies they like. There's a Wii and a GameCube that they keep their entire life, and just little things like that. And it's just such a wonderful little story. And right when you're almost getting tired of the gameplay loop, it ends. It's just perfectly paced. It's the perfect length. And it's like I said, this is the best way I could think to describe it, but even this isn't going to do it justice. So if you have any interest in a different type of narrative, I really would recommend people check this one out.
Damn it, Jeff! How are you so fucking wholesome?
It's a good
How?
pick.
Like-
I loved Unpacking. I like the way that it told its story. I like the story about the main character that it told solely through their possessions over the years. And like the limitations and the places that they lived. Yeah, it's a good pick. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Jeff, can I ask what you played it on?
I played it on Xbox.
Because I was gonna say, like I imagine this would be an especially comfy game on the Switch or something, or like the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I think I've read a lot of people are frustrated with the controller, which makes it like you're dragging and moving things around.
Oh, so it's a drag and drop. It's a
It's like you
okay.
take it
I
out
can
of the
see how-
box, you pop it on a shelf and stuff like that. So I mean, I had no problem with it. If you're patient, it's fine. But if people are fine with a mouse and keyboard, PC is probably the way to play it. But
can see
I
that.
think it's available on all systems now, pretty much.
I believe
So
I believe so.
Switch would be a very.
I've been wanting
cozy way
to.
play it.
When I first saw the trailer for it, I was like, "Oh, that's absolutely a Britney game."
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. John, let's go to you next. Why don't you tell us about your Game of the Year pick?
Okay, sure, no problem. My game of the year is Chained Echoes, which is
Late contender for Game of the Year too.
very late contender, snuck in there at the very end. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Chained Echoes is not my favorite game of the year. My favorite game of the year is my runner-up, but I am giving Chained Echoes my spot for game of the year because of what it set out to accomplish and how much of it actually did accomplish. Chained Echoes is a brilliant little Super Nintendo style JRPG with that wears the DNA of games that came before it on its sleeve. There's a lot of Xenogears, there's a lot of Chrono Trigger, there's a lot of Final Fantasy 9 and Final Fantasy 12. And there are a lot of there's a lot of story beats. There are some character designs that are very similar, especially to 12. Derek, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like the lizards, like the lizard people might as well be the Banga from Final Fantasy 12.
They look a lot
Banga.
like them too.
Yeah,
Give me
the
that as
sea-
a playable race in 12. I mean
the
14.
Seek race from Final Fantasy 12 is. I mean, there's a race of can't remember what they're called. in the game, but they're very clearly based off them. And the game does crib a lot from what came before it, but it executes it all in a way that is just an absolute delight to behold. The game itself it's a straight up 2D beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful pixel art games I've ever played. And Derek and I have mentioned this at length. The way that those backgrounds are drawn and scroll with character movement give the game a sense of scale that is it's just deceptively large when you're talking about like a 2D pixel based game. It's really incredible the way they did that. The most impressive thing about Chained Echoes is that aside from the music, this was mostly done by one guy, Matthias Lindy. He is a German indie game developer, and he painstakingly put together Chained Echoes over the course of 7 years. He worked on this fucking thing for 7 years. 2 years into it, he started a Kickstarter, right? And I think we've had a lot of horror stories on Kickstarter, right? Like there've been a lot of games that either came out really bad or just never came out at all. I feel like Kickstarter has been an extremely mixed bag when it comes to games. Chained Echoes is by far the greatest, not just the greatest Kickstarter game, but it is the greatest indie RPG I have ever played. And if this game, obviously bound by the limitations of 1995, let's say, if this game had come out between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, for example, in 1995 or somewhere in that time period, it would be remembered alongside those two games as one of the greats. That's how good this game is.
Yeah.
There are some hallmarks of the fact that this is essentially a one-person effort. There's some weird spellings. There's some flat out spelling errors. Some of the writing is a little bit wonky. I don't feel like the balancing in the game is consistent all the way through. I feel like there are some.
If you love old JRPGs though, like you're used to that. So,
but there are some, like, especially near the end of the game, there are some pretty there's some pretty wild spikes in difficulty compared to the journey to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Like you'll blaze your way through a dungeon, you're like, oh, this is nothing, and then you will literally hit a brick wall of a boss that stops you for about 2 hours. But having said that, this game has a lot of cool accessibility options. You can lower the difficulty, you can lower the aggressiveness of enemies, you can increase the size of the text, you can do all kinds of stuff. Like I don't have all of them in the.
It's nice to have a bunch of different like modular difficulty options in something like what is intended to be a JRPG.
Right, exactly.
And it's stuff I'd like to see more of.
Also, the best part is it's on Game Pass, so if you wanted to give it a shot,
it is on Game Pass. Yeah,
it's on Game Pass. We did a full review of it recently because it's a very recent release.
I feel like I need to full disclosure here. We did get a review code from the developer.
But I did. You did.
But Derek was the one who played it for review. I bought it myself and played it myself.
Yeah.
So I want to stress, if I were to put this next to my runner-up, I would pick my runner-up for reasons I'll get into later. But this is one of the best RPGs I've played in a decade.
And like the context of it being a single person is.
And like I said, Derek played it also, and Derek, you were in love with this game.
Yeah, it's an excellent game. I love old JRPGs. It's very like us core, right? It's very Final Fantasy core. I loved a lot of the quality of life changes made and the small ways that it was modernized from something like a Final Fantasy VI.
Yep.
I thought it was, to me, like Undertale took the world by storm. For many reasons. But one of those reasons was how crazy it is that all of that was done by just Toby Fox.
Right.
And to me, Chained Echoes is a whole different league in terms of the amount of effort and the scale and what went into this game. Which is not to say that they're tonally comparable games. They're really not. But
not at all.
Like I think that this is something that really stands in a league of its own in terms of indie JRPGs. And basically one-person projects. And it deserves to be recognized for that.
Right.
So, like, within that context, I get why you would pick that as Game of the Year over your runner-up, even if you personally liked your runner-up more. because
Well,
there's
it's
just
like-
a difference in the context of its creation and its release.
Me personally, like, I mean, you guys remember a couple of years ago, like I picked Sayonara Wild Hearts as my game of the year. It wasn't my favorite game that year, but it reminded me of a lot of the struggles that my wife had gone through, and which was really poignant to me, which is why I picked it for my game of the year. Just because this is my philosophy, just because something isn't my favorite game of the year doesn't mean it's not the most impressive game
Yeah.
I've played this year. When you factor in all, everything, not just the game itself, but things that went into its development, things that it made me feel, things, feelings that it kind of welled up inside of me. Chained Echoes is absolutely phenomenal. And without spoiling anything, I'll say that the ending of this game is one of the most poignant and sad, tragic, but also uplifting endings I've seen in a game in the better part of a decade. It leaves it wide open for a sequel, and I hope beyond hope that Matthias Lindy gets the capital he needs to make a sequel, because not only is this a world that is baggy, like they flat out end, like, the story is very much meant to continue, but like Derek, imagine what he could do with more money and like an actual, like a bigger, like a team to assist him. Like it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why Chained Echoes is my game of the year.
Rockin'. So I will go next. My game of the year was the third of three that were kind of the bottom tier picks for game of the year. We were the only ones that mentioned them. My game of the year is Hard Space Shipbreaker, which is a game that I think bypassed a lot of folks. I believe it's still on Game Pass. I know it was when I played it. Hard Space Shipbreaker is interesting. On a purely gameplay perspective, you are in zero G, in a suit with tools, and it is your job to disassemble old spaceships. So a ship gets dropped into your yard, I guess, for lack of a better, say, your work area, and you have to go inside them, find your weld points, disassemble them, put things in the correct, this needs to go to the furnace, this needs to go to the processor, these are valuable enough that you can salvage them intact. There are hazards you have to deal with, like, damaged electricity. One of the biggest points very early on that shows you kind of where the complexity is going to come in is you start having to deal with pressurized environments. You can't, if you've got an old disabled ship, you can't just crack it open and go inside. If it's pressurized, it'll depressurize at you and hurt you and send you flying off into space or flying into the furnace or something. So it's kind of a very, it's kind of like playing with Legos or assembling IKEA furniture or something, but in reverse. Like, you're breaking something down, and I found that very satisfying. But what really made it my game of the year is, aside from having a really addictive gameplay loop, it tells a very interesting and I think very important story. It takes what I think is a very common sort of sci-fi setting, setup, aesthetic of, it's a kind of libertarian, Wild West dystopia in space. You get this job as a shipbreaker, and in order to get the job, you have to do, you get signed up. You are immediately charged just stupid amounts of money for habitat rental and tool rental and all these things, and you're millions and millions of credits in debt before you're even day one on the job. And you're basically working just to pay off the debt you owe the company. And day after day, it's really difficult to watch how little of a dent you're making in your debt towards this company. And the other characters and the dialogue you have with them and the scenario evolves over the course of this story to really tell a story about capitalism, to tell a story about how corporations are designed from the get-go to extract your labor for their profit and will use their power against you. And it is very much a story about the collective power of workers and ways in which we have the ability to band together and turn that sort of that relationship of power in the other direction, and ways in which workers can be in control of, their workplace environments and the fruits of their labor. And I think that that's a really interesting, because you see sci-fi all the time that does it's a dark, gritty, like neon soaked, corporations run everything. Like, that's so common in sci-fi. And nobody wants to do anything with it other than be cynical, other than just be like, this is a crap sack world where, it's cyberpunk bullshit. And I'm tired of it.
Where everything sucks.
I'm fucking tired of it. I'm fucking tired of doomer sci-fi. I really am. So it really meant something to see something take that, use it in a meaningful way for the setup of the game to create the scenario as to why you'd be in this situation, and then to tell a story about overcoming that.
So this is essentially fuck capitalism, the game.
This is unionize the game, and like that means a lot. Like this is a game about the relationship of power between the worker and the workplace. And it is just incredibly, like I said, I'm so tired of this doomer shit of like the corporations are going to run your life. It's like, no, we can control them. Show people through your stories, show people that path, show people explicitly through your characters and your, friendly NPCs' relationships with their workplace, with the economy, how that is stacked against them and how you can turn the table. And like I said, it's all of that, but it's also just a super addictive, let me do one more shift, because it's fun to break down the ships. It is. It's fun to build things, and it's fun to take them apart.
Who's the developer on this, Derek?
I'm not, I'd have to look it back up.
I'm looking it up right. It's Blackbird Interactive. Derek, I have to apologize.
Yeah?
I had never heard of the game.
Yeah.
And I heard the title and I just assumed it was a mech game. Like I just
that's a very Derek core choice, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
This is I've been watching the trailers and screenshots the whole time you're talking about and listening. This is a me ass game.
This is a very Jeff core game. Yes,
yeah,
you would love this.
Tagged
for
as
sure.
simulation and physics.
It's very those are the two best ways to describe its gameplay. Yes.
Yeah. So
And-
I am
and then
100% buying this.
It
You've
tells
sold
a
me on
story
it.
about labor organizing, which is just super important. So
it's
yeah,
a game that's been on my list for like a long time that I just haven't gotten to check out yet.
yeah, it's
sitting in my Steam library, just kind of
I think a
keep it
lot of
all-
people casually saw a bit of it and were like, that seems kind of cool. I'll get around to it. It's very like Power Wash Simulator, but like no, because it's about things. And it's also a much better game. And I mean, like, not to talk shit about Power Wash Simulator, it was fun, but like, this is a whole different
There's mechanics
league.
to it.
Yes. It's very cool. You have to remember rules for what you do to how do you power down and disconnect this type of reactor, when you come across it. It's very, in a way that's digestible. You don't need to be a mechanic to play this game or anything. Weld points are giant, yellow and black caution tape looking, points that make it really obvious that that's where you're supposed to use the cutter. But yeah, that's my game of the year. It's one nobody else mentioned, like Chained Echoes and like Unpacking, but I think it was very impactful to me. So
I'm glad, Derek, that it had such an impact on you.
Yeah. Unionize, motherfuckers. So
I just want to say that, oh God, see, okay. So Finn's background is like so out of focus and blurry that when Caitlin walks up, it's like
a ghost.
It's like a phantom or a spirit approaching Finn, and then all of a sudden she materializes into the material plane.
This is what it's like when you take like 5 Benadryl. So
Is that what this is? Like looking at Finn's screen, I feel like I have glaucoma.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had some experiences that we need to
Wait, what are you
discuss,
talking
CJ.
about, John? I don't have my screen blurred. I think you're
yeah,
just
it's
being
clear, man.
old.
What are you talking about?
John, you need a
Possible.
chupa chup.
Why don't you just let us
Possible.
Gen Z folk explain what we're seeing?
Radical, man.
All
Me and CJ.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, what's your damage, John? That's what us Gen Z folks say.
That's hey, who's going next, you motherfuckers?
Our fourth
Get this
game of
shit
the
on the
year.
road. Quit fucking around.
Our fourth game of the year is a slight tier above the others because at least one other person mentioned this game in their runner-up or honorable mentions section. And that would be CJ's pick for Game of the Year, which was Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Okay, so first
CJ,
things first,
tell us a little about this.
First things first, rest in peace, David Crosby. Second, so I bought my Switch OLED.
Wait, what?
Yeah, David Crosby did. I bought my Switch OLED in November. That was my birthday gift to myself because I had a light for like 2 years and I'd been dying for like a Switch to play like on my TV. So I'm like, fuck it, let me upgrade it. The only reason I bought it was because I still hadn't played Kirby and the Forgotten Land. When did it come out? In March, right?
Something like March or February.
Game. And I'm like, well, and I was so hyped for it because I love a lot of the 2D. I love the 2D Kirby games, and it's a 3D game. But I just let it slip. Played a bunch of other games. Played my runner up was like my game of the year for like the longest time. I played one of my honorable mentions. That was like one of my picks for game of the year. Picks for like platform of the year. And then Thanksgiving, I had a copy of Kirby and the Forgotten Land from work. I played through all of it like within that weekend. I think it's the greatest Switch exclusive out right now. I truly think
statement.
And that's coming from me, someone who doesn't like Zelda games, Metroidvanias, or RPGs that much. So take it with a grain of salt. I only play platformers and arcade racers.
And now JRPGs.
Yeah, I know. Don't remind me.
The real question
Not proud
is,
of that fact.
CJ, the real question is it better than Balan Wonderworld?
You know what? It's a hard one. I don't know. Like Battle Wonderworld has the edge of being like now directed by like a hardened criminal. I think that's pretty like
Multi-felony award winner
God.
Yuji Naka.
We've mentioned Yuji Naka more times on this podcast on these in the last like 6 months than we had in the actual Battle Wonderworld like review. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the way I like it, it's not the jump from like Mario World to Mario 64. It's more the jump of like Link to the Past to Ocarina, meaning they copied the same format of a 2D Kirby game. They just kind of brought it to like 3D. It's still very linear. It's still very level based. A lot of the objectives remain the same. A lot of the aesthetics remain exactly the same. But it's one of those things where you can you're kind of familiar with everything, right? It's not a dramatically different game where all of a sudden now you're like in this big open area collecting things, or it's more like, no, you just kind of get to the level. It's more of a brawler than it is a straightforward platformer, which is what Kirby's always been. It's never been about like precise jumping. It's never been about like difficulty. It's always about finding a good ability, beating the ever-loving Christ out of like the most adorable little fuckers ever.
Yeah,
and
it's about fucking slaughtering squishmallows.
Yeah.
Deep
You
throating a
just
car.
sounded like you described the podcast, CJ.
Yeah, pretty much. But what really surprised me about this game, or not surprised me, this year for me personally, 2022, there weren't many like greatest of all times. I mean, last year we had Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, Life is Strange True Colors, and all this stuff that really like, all right, any one game could be game of the year. This year there's a consensus, and most of the ones that like most of the big games didn't appeal to me. But this truly feels like the most polished, the most wonderfully vibrant, warmest game I've played in ages. It is absolutely wonderful in an era where everything has to be grounded or cynical or everything like that. And this coming from someone like me who is just absolutely done with so much, I can't believe like something like this could make me like smile so. There was the one bit
Kirby.
It really is. I've always loved it, and I always loved Kirby. The one bit that got me the most was like there's one of the side quests in one of the levels is like rescue like a family of ducks. Reunite these ducks, and I don't go for 100% in games. I made sure I found all those fucking ducks. They make you care about collectibles because most of the collectibles are fucking Waddle Dees.
Yeah,
like the
You
fact
gotta
that
save the
these
boys.
oh my god, and you have the little town which I spent way too much time in, and
What the?
Brittany was tired of your talking about
Ritz
Waddle
do-
Dees, okay?
Ritz dogs
fuck,
just fucking
fuck
shit
the
up.
Waddle Dees. Fuck the Waddle Dees.
She was yelling at her cat over a phone.
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so
I mean, not like clearly, just heard you going, ah, ah.
I heard
I
her
think
clearly.
that might make it worse.
Don't
then we
worry,
just-
we definitely heard you.
The thing
all the
with
time.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it's hard to talk about a game that's like so just it nails everything. There's nothing original about it. It's still a Kirby game. It's not like again like like I said earlier, it's not this huge jump. One of my honorable mentions is the more ambitious game, but it's also a very flawed game. This isn't that ambitious, but man, it nails everything. I spent 15 hours in it and I was done, and I felt like I had just played like it felt like a revelation. 100%. It's the only it is like the absolute highlight of the Nintendo Switch for me so far.
I described Kirby in the Forgotten Land as like a lost GameCube game from where they first brought Kirby to 3D, and I mean that as the highest praise I can give it.
I spend so much time watching like video essays and retro gaming videos, and all I do is talk about what the transition from what is it from like how Kirby 64 was what it became what it is, and then Return to Dreamland became what it is, because they're all kind of like bits and pieces of like a lost GameCube 3D GameCube game.
Yeah.
And you look at all that footage and you see it, you know, kind of like alive in Kirby the Forgotten Land. I'm like, yeah, you're right. This would have been perfect on that. I would have eaten this up when I was younger.
This would have fit in right alongside Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime.
100%. I was like, you're right. It wouldn't have been able to exist on anything else but the GameCube and Switch. There's no middle ground. There's absolutely the Wii would have.
This couldn't have been a Wii game. No,
it could have been a Wii game. Could definitely not be a Wii U game. It has to be a Switch or GameCube game. And I love it. Also, a point to note, I know a lot of people weren't vibing with like the boss fights or like the actual movement. I felt Kirby moved fine. It's not, you know,
he
you
moved like a Kirby.
Yeah, you don't get full like 360 degree. It's not Mario 64. It's not Mario Odyssey. Whatever. I also love the boss fights so much.
Yeah.
Without spoiling, man, the ending just becomes like this weird like body horror sci-fi like.
Well, that's the thing, CJ.
Kirby
endings. I don't think it's not a spoiler to say that at the end you find a horrible eldritch abomination.
Right.
Like it's a Kirby game.
But wait. But the thing, and this isn't a spoiler, but man, that DDD boss fight.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Look, I think King DDD is probably my new favorite Nintendo villain.
DDD, he's not even a villain. He's just a fucking pimp.
He's just a dude who fucking like. He's just trying. You're right. He's just trying to fuck bitches, make money. Kirby's over here eating shit up.
Penguin. He's just a penguin in a robe with a hammer trying to fuck shit up.
That's 100%. And Kirby's over here. You know, he's killing his vibe. 100%. I get it. We all have that one guy.
DDD hasn't been sober since '94.
Pretty much. But there's so much more I can say, but it's an absolutely phenomenal game. One of the greatest platformers I ever played. Again, maybe the greatest Switch exclusive, because my last favorite exclusive technically isn't an exclusive. Exceptional. I loved it. It's my game of the year. Again, a late game of the year because I played it like late November, early December, but immediately just clicked. This is it.
Yeah. It's a good ass game. So moving on to our true game of the year. It's very funny because if you're watching this live, all three of us on top picked a game nobody else mentioned. And then CJ at the very bottom picked a game that at least somebody else mentioned. But our three in the middle row here all picked the same game of the year, bringing it, and which was also mentioned by other folks in other positions. So
I think it's really impressive you guys picked Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remastered.
Far and away.
John, I had to give you a solid.
Yeah.
You kept us all in your house, so I had to thank you some way.
Far and away, our game of the year was God of War Ragnarok. So why don't we give this up to the middle row to explain how they banded together to decide on this game as game of the year.
I say Britt goes first.
Center stage.
Center stage. So God of War. Where do I start? Okay, so God of War I've always loved. It was like you know, I've mentioned it so many times on the podcast before that it was, you know, a game I picked up late because when it first came out, I was like, what the fuck is this beefy guy with axe pass? Like, I'm fine. I don't need those hack and slash games. And then I picked it up and it just completely absorbed me. And I was so excited for Ragnarok. And when it came out, it made me the happiest I've been all year. Last year was really rough for me. A lot of bad shit happened to me, and I fully attribute God of War Ragnarok to being like my starting point of getting back to like not normal, but not just feeling like depressed and anxious all the time. It drove me, it motivated me, which is something I hadn't felt in months. It captured my heart. I continuously love the characters through that game. I'm a big fan of Norse mythology, so I was very interested to see like how they interpreted different characters and brought them in. And it was just a really it was therapeutic for me. And I know people have their issues with it, and I know it's not everybody's favorite, and that's fine. I don't expect it to be, but it just, aside from my personal feelings, I just thought it was a really great game. But of course, my feelings are what elevated it to Game of the Year. It's the only platinum I got last year, and I worked hard to get that bitch, and that's probably the hardest I've worked.
Those berserkers are no fucking joke.
That's the only platinum. Oh, fake gamer. Shit.
I know. I'm such a fake
Yeah,
gamer.
but she beat all the berserkers. That's.
I don't want to hear fucking excuses.
Yeah.
Hey, John, did you get the platinum?
No, because I didn't.
How many
care enough.
platinums did you get in 2022?
23.
Did
I
you?
so I like that I
Bullshit.
made it
Well,
like this.
I think the answer is 0. I think Britt's a better gamer than John.
100%. Britt, like you have this emotional thing. First of all, John, 23 platinums, get a fucking life. Anyway, Britt, continue.
But yeah, like I said, I just fully attribute it to like the start of my incline in my mental health. Because I can't tell you how happy I was to have that game, and then when it was on my screen, like the time when you're going to start it up and everything. And some of my days of playing it were some of my best days last year. And I almost gave up. I got stuck on the Berserker King. And I was like, you know what? I'm not like it kind of defeated me. I was like, I'm not good at these kinds of games. Like, I just need to give up. And then I, sorry, CJ pasted something and it distracted me. And then I went back to it and I did it. And then it was Gana's turn, and I actually beat her faster. I don't know if I was just used to Valkyries by that point or what, but yeah, and then I did it. And God of War just did so much for my mental health wise, story aside and everything. It was just, it was like a big hug that I needed to kind of like pick me up. And, I'll say it time and time and again. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the music. It's all just 100% my jam. And it felt like they just expanded on the first game, which was already really good. So, yeah.
Breakout star of that game, Thrud.
Yes. I was going to say Christopher
Thrud.
Judge's speech at the Game Awards, but I'll give it to Thrud.
One thing about this game that really struck me, and like the fact that it kept up in this way for the whole time, is just like how much like quality handcrafted content there is in it. So many like big games, a lot of days, like they have, there's plenty of collectibles and kind of repetitive tasks and stuff, but like there are a lot of side quests that are really, really good, well thought out side quests. Take you to a lot of places that you wouldn't go otherwise. There's a lot of characterization within them. But like in the way, like kind of it's the inverse to way, like, a lot of like open world titles and stuff get monotonous. Like it really feels like there isn't this huge gap between like the mainline quest quality and the side quests. Like when you're in this world, you are in it. And like, it's something that I think represents what I really want, like from like a big AAA game. Like if it's a game that's going to take 5 years, if it's a game that's going to cost a lot, like, to make, like, it just felt so complete. And like every square inch of this game was poured over by really talented people that really cared about, getting this game out, and really getting this experience to the player. Late game, there's like an entire optional section that I spent literal days exploring.
I remember I messaged Justin and I was like, this just keeps going. I was like,
Yeah,
when
and
does
there
it
was so
end?
much more that you had left too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
Literally
just,
take a step and you get a side quest.
you know, there's just something about this game that it just everything just clicked for me, and like also a lot of side quests. This is just, you know, I'm somebody that works at a veterinary office, and like a lot of the side quests and stuff are like helping out animals in this game. And you know, I'm somebody that also, you know, loves like large mythological creatures. Like I talk about kaiju movies and stuff all the time. And like there's a lot of that and like love and awe for that sort of thing in this game. And I think that's missing from a lot of like fantasy themed games these days, is like that kind of sense of magic and like embracing it and stuff too. You know, for as much of, you know, God of War can be, you know, you know, a brutal series, like there's so much that's just nice about this game. And like, I don't know, just the sheer effort and passion that went into this game just blew me away. Like there's not a single thing in this game that somebody didn't really care about and put themselves into. And also just shout out to the team. This was the most polished game I have played like in the COVID era. Performance was excellent. I didn't encounter a single bug, and I played this on day one and stuff. Whereas like almost every other game, even ones that have come out in like, you know, decent shape, have had some of those issues and have had, you know, more patches than stuff used to take to get into a good shape. Like this game was polished and really high quality. And I think just like, if you're going to talk about like this big AAA thing, like sometimes, you know, just having, oh, we have this much gameplay, but like the fact that it's so dense and curated, and you could just feel the care and love that went into making this game. It just blew me over. And just play like I was in kind of the same boat as Britt. Like when I was playing this game, I was in this world, and it was some of the happiest I was last year. So
yeah, I was gonna say
I really had a great time with it.
Even the side quests don't feel like side quests because they have lore and they have story to it.
Yeah, and some of the stuff is like really important.
And they're so good at threading. Like if you wait until later to do a lot of this stuff, and maybe have like different characters around in the story at that time, like they account for those sort of changes when you do those stories, and dialogue will significantly change. And there's a lot of polish in it. I heard a lot of people when God of War Ragnarok came out. I heard a lot of people criticize it by saying it really just felt like more of God of War, like the last one. Like we have all of these games coming out where the sequels, these big transformative experiences, and this just felt like more God of War. But
added to the experience.
There were 7 Greek God of War games, by the way.
But here's the thing.
Wow, they really
the
were,
last
weren't
God
there?
of War
Shit.
that, you know, that sort of reboot on PS4 was incredible. And we waited a decent amount of time for this game. And like, it is really, to me, like, again, I didn't criticize The Last of Us Part 2 for being too similar to The Last of Us, right? Like, and this story, this was intended to finish out and end an era started by the previous game and be 2 parts of one story. And when you nail something that right the first time, you don't have to reinvent everything. Like, so it's crazy
also,
to me.
The 2018 game was such a massive departure
overhaul,
too.
Yeah.
It's
What about you, Finn?
Well, I think it's safe to say that this game Ragnaroked.
I fucking
Come off the
hate
call.
you.
I love you,
That's
Finn.
You don't Finn Ragnarok.
That's all I have to say.
And I'm surprised he didn't say I was God of worried that it wouldn't live up, but
I
really
wasn't God of
Ragnarok.
worried that it wasn't gonna live up because it Ragnaroked. And you'd
Finn,
have to be pretty
cray.
cray toast to think it
How
wasn't
about
going to be
my
God
good.
of shut the fuck
No,
up.
I was with
That-
you until that one, man.
that is
You ruined it. You
Okay, no, all right.
Finn, you
So-
fucking blew it. You blew it, Finn. You blew it.
It's coming back.
Look, real talk, there's only a handful of games each generation that I play alongside Saki.
You gave Brit psychic damage.
It's fine.
I didn't
So
like that.
and God of War was the first that we ever sat I not played together, but that she got invested in and sat down. Like, it all started, the first God of War came out on PS4. I was playing it. She was doing something else. As the intro progressed, she stopped what she was doing, sat down, watched. By the end of like the opening and like the early stuff, she said, okay, you can't play without me. Like, so it became a game I could only play when she was present so we could experience it together. And she was more excited about Ragnarok than I was. She was the one that told me, did you see the new trailer? Did you know it's coming out soon? Don't forget to pick it up after work. And we spent the bulk of our Christmas holiday just hunkered down and platinuming the game together. And it was awesome trying to figure out the story beats and guess where it was going to go together and throw in ideas. And then the game itself is just so good. And to touch upon different parts that they haven't mentioned yet, like just the combat, it's not drastically different from the last one, but it's so much more expanded upon that I tried to go back to the original to be like, I should probably finish my platinum in the first one. All I had to do was beat the Valkyrie Queen, and there was so many.
All
things
you
in the
had to
combat.
do.
Well, there was so many things in the new game that aren't present in the old game that just makes me really sad, because you can tailor the combat to your play style based on any combination from the different shields that they are. Like, all of them completely fundamentally change how you play, the armor sets and what bonuses they give you, the runes you equip and what bonuses they give you, the upgrades you choose, the weapon you choose. Like, everything has its own build out, and it just switching between blades, axe, and spear, you just can't, like, they're all different, and it just made combat feel very varied and fun, and every encounter felt like exciting. You could button mash, but where's the fun in that? There was just something. And also, just from a pure story point, without getting too spoilery, I loved that they broke up the Kratos Atreus duo multiple times and gave you different partners throughout the game. It made the longer runtime feel a lot more varied, and I never once was like looking at like watch being like, when is this going to be over? In fact, I was actually honestly shocked the way it ended that it did, because I don't know if they announced this, but I kept assuming we would get another trilogy out of the Norse, and then they ended the Norse story, and I'm like, oh, dip.
I think they mentioned
games
before release, but I mean, it's not like it was part of the marketing. So, like, if you weren't paying that much attention,
and I wasn't.
They said it in an interview, but it wasn't like they were shouting it from the rooftops or anything.
Right.
So I have a quick question, like, just following that up. Are they going? They haven't announced a third game. Did they commit to a trilogy?
No,
no.
They in fact, the opposite. They said that Ragnarok was going to wrap this story.
I know this story, but I didn't know if they were going to make another game.
They have said things like alluding to there being more God of War in the
they've
future.
set up far too much in this universe in these two games for them not to keep going. But
I
think the Norse chapter is
the like Norse saga is
the other thing I wanted to just touch upon is just Kratos' journey, not just from the original trilogy, but from game 1 to 2, and his growth as a character, and the way Christopher Judge brought that depth. And you could, like, this Kratos is so different than just from 2018 Kratos and how he interacts with his child. And it was so cool to see. And also, there was a one plot twist moment near the end of the game that had my jaw dropped, and it was, oh man, that
I was so confused.
That one moment like sold the entire, like, even if I didn't like anything prior to that story beat had me fucking.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about, so you'll have to DM me after this.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll DM you now.
I'm doing it now.
Works.
I'm already on it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, God of War. Oh, Ragnarok was good. Ragnarok was one of my honorable mentions. There was no way it wasn't going to end up on my list.
It was all right.
What a fantastic game.
Also, the fact that story beat gets kind of touched upon and resolved in the epilogue content that you complete to
Oh
get the
yes.
platinum.
Oh yes. Yeah.
That
So cool.
okay, then I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another example of like why I thought some of the side stuff was so great.
Oh,
Like yeah,
the
there's
side quests in this game, none of them felt like a throwaway.
there's a major reveal that is not even actually in a side quest. It's like just from exploring a post game area and you stumble upon it.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's like Justin said, like the side quest felt as important as a lot of the main plots. Like we didn't get a single kill X wolves and bring me their pelts so that I can build a coat for you to improve your gear score.
That's how you build a coat. Everybody knows that.
There was a
shit.
couple of those, but
There's one side quest where Atreus is like, why did you want to do this? Says to Kratos, and you know, they talk back and forth, and then Amir chimes in, is like, he just wants to spend time with you, boy.
Yeah,
and
like,
like,
shut the fuck up, kid.
I loved that moment, and it also sums up with why I think some of the side content was as good as it was, and why I wanted to do it all. I wanted to spend time in this world and with these characters.
Yeah.
I just did.
God of War Ragnarok also had easily one of my favorite lines in a game of the entire year, which was "the fuck's an olive."
Yes, I love that. They're talking about what did you miss before?
What is your favorite food you wish you could have again? And Kratos says olives, and there's a silence, and then the fuck's an olive. Because none of them would know what an olive is. It's meaningless, but I love it.
I wish I get he's the god of wisdom, but I wish they would have mentioned how Mimir keeps hearing about, you know what? Fuck what I was going to say. The greatest random throwaway conversation was throughout the whole game. Mimir's like, hey, I heard this wonderful like tale of valor or brutality that you did back in Greece. And Kratos would comment one way or the other. And then one time he just references PlayStation Battle All-Stars, like All-Stars Battle Royale. And Kratos like, I don't want to talk about it.
I don't remember that.
I thought that one was about Fortnite.
No, it's
about PlayStation All Stars.
I heard he did battle with like the greatest musician, a treasure hunter.
That was
a princess for Fat Princess, and he's naming all these like PlayStation characters, and Kratos like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, fair enough. And it's great.
Did he also say like, I fought in a lot of tournaments or something like? Yeah,
that's funny.
Just my favorite interaction from God of War Ragnarok was because like I can relate to this in a great deal based on some of my experiences. Is when I can't remember where they're trying to get into, but they're going for a head-on, like a head-on confrontation. And Mimir says, "Brother, perhaps maybe we should attempt a more stealthy approach." And there's like 10 seconds of silence, and then Kratos just goes, "No." And I was like, see, this is why no one wanted to work with me in Afghanistan in 2010.
Correct. That's the only reason.
Yeah, pretty much.
No. So, if this is a good cutoff point, if you all will have it, where we can let everybody take 4 or 5 minutes to talk about the rest of their choices.
Oh, I just want to point out real quick in chat that Matty Dude said Kratos was good, so Matty Dude is my new favorite.
That's fine.
How do we want to do? Do we want to do this? I'm gonna do this reverse order. We're gonna go from CJ up to me, backwards from reading order.
So then, what are you gonna
CJ,
do?
I'm gonna go ahead and put your image up on the screen for a bit, and I want you to talk. I want you to talk about your. By the way, Finn, thank you for creating all of these graphics.
Bro, shout out to
rule.
Finn. Shout out to Finn.
Yeah, shout out to Finn for real.
Nothing else, just for the graphics. Just for the graphics. Everything else now.
Also the puns. CJ,
no.
You're up on screen. Why don't you talk about your runner-up and your...
That picture isn't a baby picture. That's me last week because I shaved. I'm that young. So I have the... Hold on, let me pull it up because I forgot. So my runner-up very quickly is Gran Turismo 7, which for the longest time was my game of the year, which is wild because I I'm mostly an arcade racing guy. So the fact that the simulator really had its hooks in me is incredible. It's probably my favorite PlayStation exclusive as well. It justified the PS5 for me. My PS5 was basically, I didn't have a PS4 Pro, so I just wanted to play a bunch of PS4 games in 4K, and it's also my 4K player, so I can just watch Collateral 50 times a week. But man, GT7, incredible. It's the only game that's like that actually got me to turn on the fucking adaptive triggers on my controller. It made me, you know, really appreciate not only a lot of the cool visual tricks that a lot of like big AAA PS5 games do. It just made me appreciate cars again. It's this great collection of Japanese cars. It's nowhere near as like monumental as like Forza Horizon, which is fine, whatever. It has a lot of cars I love. It's the only game where you can get a bunch of different Toyotas. One of the first cars I got was a Supra, made me happy. One of the first cars I got was a Mazda Miata, which I can actually fit in a video game. The sort of like love for car culture and the artistry that goes into manufacturing and just racing is exceptional. It is, and I talked about this before, so many games elicit emotional responses through story, which kind of sucks because games are interactive. This is the only time I played a game where I'm like, oh, okay, this action is being translated successfully in a really interesting way. And I can't really describe it any better. It's just one of those things, you have to play it. It is like my words aren't doing any justice. And then my quickly honorable mentions, Need for Speed Unbound. Man, Criterion's back. I'm so happy. One of the greatest arcade racers around, one of the most unique AAA racing games ever, with thanks to its art style. It's the perfect marriage of Criterion's, Burnout's over-the-top arcade racing with the more technical and grounded that Need for Speed usually has. Another honorable mention, Sonic Frontiers, the most ambitious platformer I've played in a decade, maybe one of the greatest platformers ever, the greatest 3D Sonic game since Generations, hands down. I put more hours into that game than any other single player game this year. So damn good. Go read my review over at Game Critics. And my last honorable mention, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I've talked about this game a lot, so I'll tell the story. One Saturday night, my cousin Justin and I were playing a lot of rounds of Call of Duty, and I was very drunk, and the whole time I swore that we were performing at like the level of like SEAL Team 6. We were not. More like SEAL Team Sucks. It was one of
No, I believe it.
It was bad. It was bad, and we were all pit. We're playing DMZ.
You shoot at any mountains?
Shot a lot of mountains. But no, Modern Warfare 2, not just a great game, but maybe the greatest social experience of the year, because it was the only thing that everyone I knew was planning around. Everyone was like, oh, are you getting Modern Warfare 2? A console and everything. Justin and I were talking about that shit for months. Over at Extra Life, all we did was like talk about, we just pre-ordered this shit. It was the game that everyone was playing, and I was so happy that it was as good as it was. Fuck it though, because I put way too much time into it. All right, I'm done.
All right. Justin, you're up next.
Okay. All right. So my runner-up this year was Horizon Forbidden West. I've talked plenty about how much I loved Zero Dawn on this show. And Forbidden West just continues a whole lot of that. Again, it's a very, iterative sequel, but the Horizon world is just, again, it's just one of those game worlds that I love being in. Like I love the art design direction, but like, again, just the whole like, majesty and awe that like the machines invoke, as well as like, story goes some wild places in Forbidden West, but like, just I just love that kind of take on a post-apocalypse, and because there's something that's very optimistic and hopeful about it, even as stuff's going down, and as much as I love my dark post-apocalyptic stories, like it's nice that there is one and that it can still have elements of that, especially when you go into the backstory stuff, but is just just a really kind of awe-inspiring, and then, optimistic at the time, like, sci-fi story. So I had a lot of fun with Horizon Forbidden West. I've got to double check what my honorable mentions were because I changed my honorable mention list a bunch since
17 times.
because I played a bunch of games right at the like last moment of the year. Okay, so here we go. So this next one, again, my top, like these three games are all real on brand for me, but Destiny 2 Witch Queen is another one of my honorable mentions. I loved the campaign that came with Witch Queen. It did so much with the lore and story, and actually bringing it in there and presenting it to players. And it's not just people, reading stuff like me that like with the lore stuff. Like, there's some really, really poignant stuff, and the design of it is really, really cool. It's just like it's actually a really brilliant FPS campaign, and it's really different, and it pulls in a lot of stuff that's really great about Destiny, and finally like shows it off in a really coherent and exciting way. It really brought me back into Destiny, which is a game I played on and off for a long time, but like Witch Queen really stuck. And this year was the most I've played Destiny in several years. I adored Witch Queen. I'm super excited for Lightfall next month. So yeah, Witch Queen was great. And then these other two are games I have only played within the last few weeks. The first one is Signalis, which is absolutely phenomenal throwback survival horror game. Just true, like if you care about survival horror games, you need to play Signalis. It is, I think, like an essential game, like in the pantheon of survival horror games. The story is brilliant. It's unsettling in ways that I wasn't expecting. Like it makes just such great use of like distortion effects and just blasting sound at you and stuff at certain times. The puzzle design is really, really clever. Some of them took me a while to figure out, but they were super satisfying when you figure it out. They're at least more logical than, a lot of survival horror ones are, but they're still tough. Yeah, it's a super cool game. Really, really took me by surprise. And it's made by a team of 2 people. Really, really impressive. And I loved how they managed to balance how to make, that type of survival horror game still feel good to play. Even though it is such a throwback, but they just took the Metal Gear Solid like camera angle and put that on instead of the typical fixed camera angles of the PS1 era stuff. So it still is a PS1 era throwback thing, but it worked a lot better. Yeah, I could gush about Signalis for a long time, but I don't want to spoil it for people. It's a game that really benefits you going in fresh for. I loved it. My other one, I'm not done yet, but it has really taken me by surprise, and I've been very taken with it. And it's Marvel's Midnight Suns. This game fucking rules. When I knew Firaxis was working on, a Marvel game, I knew they would nail like the turn-based strategy stuff of it. Like Firaxis is in a league of their own when it comes to that sort of thing. However, what I wasn't prepared for, and the stuff that I've loved the most, is how much of an RPG it is. And with some really, really great character writing, and the voice cast is also great. It's just been so fun to go through and to get to know the characters. I love the characterization that they've come up with for a lot of these established characters. It goes deep into a lot of the supernatural lore of the Marvel universe in a really fun way. But it also does a really good job with, when people argue and it actually has an air of being uncomfortable when people are fighting and stuff too. And sometimes there's arguments where it's oh, nobody's in the wrong, but I see why everybody's mad and stuff like that. I don't know. They really handle the character and team dynamics well. And I think especially the Abby stuff is a cool spin on kind of the typical BioWare. Oh, you go back and you talk to your companions between missions kind of thing, which I'm a sucker for and I love anyway. But they added kind of a, there's mysteries to solve, and over time you gain spells to access different places and investigate. It's a really, really cool game that I think is cool in ways I wasn't expecting. And the turn-based strategy stuff is great too. So they nailed the stuff I expected them to, but I've been really taken by the characterization and writing. And it's just been a really fun game to spend some time in. So yeah, those were my my runners up and honorable mentions.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Britt, you're up.
You're
Britt, I
muted,
believe
Britt.
you're
You're
muted.
muted.
I'm not.
This is practicing.
No, I'm not. I had to bring Jeff back into the conversation because he's been quiet for a
Right.
little bit. So my runner-up was Disney's Dreamlight Valley. Because it was a game that stuck with me throughout the year. It was it was and it has been everything I wish Animal Crossing was. This game isn't officially out yet, but the way they've been dropping content has just been, it's been slow and steady, which I love because you can't just blow through everything like you can in Animal Crossing. Time skipping fucks up your game. So you really just have to work through it and put in the effort. And I loved that. I loved, unlocking characters. I loved decorating. I loved, just all that cozy Animal Crossing stuff, but it was just expanded upon and better. I loved crafting multiple things at once. It was a improvement from Animal Crossing, and it just made me realize how disappointing Animal Crossing is to me. And I'm excited to see where they go with it. They've only released, I want to say, like 3 characters since they went out for their initial launch. But yeah, it's been my cozy game. Anytime like I didn't have any energy to do anything, I would play Dreamlight Valley. I loved farming money to shop for clothes and buying all the stuff I can and shop updates. And one thing I love about it is there's little side quests you get with your quote unquote villagers. So it's not like they move there and then you like give them a shirt every now and then and like that makes them happy. Like you actually have like a friendship bar that you have to work on and do quests for, and you have to go get certain things and craft certain things for them. And you have a friendship level of 10, and each level you get something. So it just gives you something to work for, which again, I had a rough year last year, so this game made me feel like I was accomplishing something. Really loved it. My honorable mentions, and I really thought, so when I played Horizon Forbidden West, I really thought it was going to be my game of the year, because that is another game that just completely drew me in, that I spent hours on the couch with. The only reason why I chose God of War over it is because I feel like God of War touched me in a more personal way than Horizon did. But I loved Horizon. I loved the characters. Kotalo is the best addition to the game. Love him so much. There's just something about
Mary.
Yeah.
Ooh, don't do that. There's something about being in that world, like Justin said, that it makes you want to stay. It makes you want to nourish your relationships. It makes you want to do everything, just because that game is so fucking beautiful too. I think that's the prettiest game I played all fucking year. And then Final Fantasy 14, that's always just a fun go-to.
Oh yeah.
I had to unsubscribe, unfortunately, but I still love it. The reason why I put it on my honorable mentions is because while Final Fantasy 14 is not new, they added new content to it, like the island, which is, again, like a farming simulator, which, if you guys haven't guessed, I fucking love that shit. And the fact that they implemented that into an MMO is like one of the most genius things I think any MMO could have done, aside from player housing. So that's why that's on my list. And then Fortnite, another just fun, cozy game. I think last year I got into Fortnite again. I didn't think I'd ever play it again, but I'm surprised at how much they changed things up. you know, they always keep it fresh. They always take and remove weapons and items. You know, they give you events with the skins that they put in the game. It's just like there's always something fun and new to do, even if you play consistently. And it's like just one of those games that's you don't have to put a lot of thought into, but it's so fun just hanging out with your friends and, you know, screaming that you're getting shot from across the map. And, you know, just I love Fortnite. And in 2022, I did not think I would be saying that, but yeah, I think Fortnite's great. And I just realized all of my honorable mentions have like F in the title. Forbidden West, Final Fantasy 14, and Fortnite. Anyway, so yeah, those are my picks. And go play them. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Finn,
Sups up.
put down Dokkan Battle and tell us about your other games.
The true game of the year.
It's fine. Finn, the last podcast I was
Game of the year.
Finn,
Shut
last
up.
podcast I was playing Puyo Puyo Tetris while everyone else was talking. It's fine. It's all there.
Before we started
Oh.
the show,
I've been
I
listening
let
to
them know,
everybody. I just want to put that out there. I love you guys, and I
I,
appreciate what you have to say.
Yeah.
I've listened to everything. It's called having ADHD and multitasking.
I don't
So
think that's how that works.
it
Then
is
what am I
exactly
wearing?
how
That
it
is
works.
kind of how it works, unfortunately.
I
It doesn't
put in
pertain.
not on my list right here, but I put in 1,562 hours in Dokkan Battle in the year of our Lord
Don't
2022.
brag about that, Finn.
Oh,
I'm
Don't brag
so-
about that.
Good lord.
Don't brag
John,
about
you
that.
want to keep going? I'll start talking about my favorite characters from 2022. I'll go all
Please
day.
don't.
But
Please don't.
instead, I'll talk about my runner-up Infernax, which is my favorite indie game of the year by far, even though Chained Echoes is really damn good. I haven't finished it yet, so I didn't count it. I only count games I've beaten. Infernax was everything they marketed it to be, which was a love letter to the Zelda 2, Castlevania 2 era of games. In fact, the marketing guy Hunter, who would always use the phrase, "What if Castlevania and Zelda 2 were good?" And you know what? He's right. This game was amazing. It took those classic styles of games and added modern day sensibilities and quality of life. And what we ended up with was a phenomenal game that encouraged multiple playthroughs to see how different decisions would play out. Oh yeah, Mr. W, eating the wall chicken in Infernax is an amazing moment that gets its own cutscene.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Nice. I like that.
Infernax
it's
was so fucking good.
It was funnier than you thought it would be. It had more depth than you thought it would have. It had more
Gory as
story than you
fuck,
thought.
bro.
The music is hardcore. The aesthetic is metal as fuck. It's so good. It was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was probably my first big game of the year. I think it dropped in early February, like right before Horizon. Speaking of Horizon, it's my first honorable mention. Until God of War dropped, Horizon was a lock for top 2.
That was me too.
And then God of War came out. It was another game where I could only play the plot if Saki was next to me because we both love Aloy. And it took a story that I really loved in part 1 with all the late game revelations and just really built upon it. And the story kept me going. I'm super hyped for whenever we're going to get part 3 because they've set up one hell of a, what I can only assume is a finale. Aloy as a character is one of my favorite new characters in recent memory. And the new robots. And the new robots in this game were so diverse and unique and fun to fight. Just had a blast playing it, and I got my platinum in this one too, and it was worth every moment. Next I have Live Alive, which I'm gonna let John talk about more, but just fucking great. What a good game. Well,
So fun and
like-
silly.
so
Man.
good. It almost makes you angry that Square Enix decided to take like 30 years to fucking let us play it officially.
Right?
But you know what?
I gotta get my,
It gave
my
us-
copy
it
from
gave
work
us-
back.
It gave us the revamped like pixel remaster quote unquote like take on Live Alive, so I guess it evens out. But it's just fucking good. And then finally I have Pokemon Scarlet, which is probably the only game that I pushed myself through tech issues and slowdown and pop-ups and glitches, because the take on the formula, like they took all of the really cool new ideas from Arceus and they were like, how can we meld those with the mainline Pokemon game? And what resulted was probably my favorite take on the tried and true formula. Like the open world aspect of it added so much to it. The 3 divergent storylines that all coalesced at the end, and also probably has the most bonkers batshit final chapter plot line wise of any Pokemon game. And I loved it. It was so cool. And it honestly, I think it has the most robust national dex, or the regional dex. It has 400 Pokemon in its base form before you even start breaking out into the national dex, and I think that's incredible. And it's the first time I've actually gotten really invested in the end game. I'm doing like raids and trying to get the herb mystikas so I can make shiny sandwiches. So I always feel so bad because our good friend of the show, Reb Valentine, lamented that she never encountered a single shiny in her 100 hours of gameplay. And I'm sitting here with 7 before I even tried. And I was like, I've never encountered a shiny in my 30 years of playing Pokemon. But I started my first 6 minutes of Pokemon Scarlet. I ran into a little pink Lechonk. And I knew from that moment on it was going to be special. But anyway, this game has got me wanting to shiny hunt and do in-game content. And that stuff, usually with Pokemon games, I'll beat the game, fight my friends for a little bit and move on. But I just keep finding myself coming back to it. My honorable mention goes to Plague Tale Requiem. It deserved more love. It just dropped at a really bad time. So there we go. Boom, boom.
John,
gang.
You're up.
Okay. So my runner-up for Game of the Year was Live Alive. And I want to stress, it was also my favorite game of 2022, and it is now probably in my top 3 favorite games of all time. I absolutely loved this game from start to finish. Live Alive, I've played a bunch of, Japanese imports that never got localized. Live Alive is one of those games I just never played. I knew all about it. I just never got the chance to play it. Live Alive is still to this day, like it originally came out in 1994, and to this day, it is still so incredibly formative and inventive. Like the fact that this game is so experimental, the fact that it came out in 1994 just absolutely boggles my mind. And it has one of the like deepest, saddest, most affecting endings in any game I've ever played, and they were so serious about this remake that they actually added an entire new phase to the final boss. I'm not gonna. That's all I'm gonna say. But the final boss was not present in the original release of Live Alive, and it is a perfect way to cap off what is an absolutely incredible game. Every line of dialogue is fully voiced.
Quick thing, like the Western bit, because that's the only part I played because I had to read. Oh my god, that dialogue!
The bit?
No, like that's the thing. That dialogue is phenomenal. Even the mariachi band, they took the time to like record music. They had them sing in this like 16-bit looking ass game. Incredible. Like that whole bit was like the most authentic thing I've like the second most authentic Western game I've ever played.
Well, and here's the other thing, CJ. Here's the other thing. Since you mentioned the mariachi band, this is the peak of Yoko Shimomura's career.
I love Yoko Shimomura. Oh my god, are you kidding?
The boss theme, especially Megalomania, is probably the greatest fucking boss theme in gaming history. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to any music service or even just go to YouTube and look up Megalomania in the HD 2D remake of Live Alive, and you will know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Like CJ's Derek, Finn, what do you guys think?
Oh, you're not wrong.
Like
I just want to point out, John, I think I would have loved Live Alive a lot more, but you gotta be real with me. Am I the only one that found the Twilight Edo Japan chapter to be just the worst?
That's where I stopped.
I wasn't a fan.
You're the
No,
only one. I
don't
loved
like
it.
it.
I loved it.
It
I
is
don't li- I don't- I
it
didn't-
is the chapter that almost made me drop the game, and it's
Yeah.
probably why I'll never replay it because I don't.
It's the
wanna
second
go
one I
back
played
to that.
after the Western
I've
one. And I'm
played
like,
it-
I
I've
didn't
played
realize
that-
it's some weird Metroidvania. I got
No,
pissed.
I've played that game 3 fucking times now.
Can't- I don't ever want to play that chapter again. If they gave me a skip
There
function,
is
but-
literally not a single chapter in this game I don't absolutely love. Like I fell head over heels in love with this game. And Finn, did you beat it?
no, not yet.
Okay, Derek, did you beat it?
Yes.
You did beat it. So all I'll say is there's a phase in the final boss where the final boss uses an attack called Saint Alethea, and as a YouTube video described, it is the most metal JRPG attack of all time, and it is fucking horrific when you actually figure out what's
I mean,
happening there.
I feel
It's
like that's
woo,
very guy who plays 2 JRPGs a year.
woo. Like woo.
That's a
It's-
joke
it's-
only for CJ.
Yeah, it's wild, but yeah, I absolutely love everything about Live Alive. One of my top 3 games of all time now, up there with Final Fantasy 6 and Chrono Trigger. Elden Ring, of course.
Yeah,
just
you
a
used
fucking-
your entire time on Live Alive, so speed run the others.
Okay, Elden Ring, great fucking game. Elden Ring is, of course, I played it for review, put 250 hours into it. Phenomenal game. Tactics Ogre Reborn. What else can I say? It's the definitive version of what was already just a classic strategy RPG from Square. And Signalis, which I'll echo what Justin said, and that is now a survival horror must play. If you're into survival horror games, and especially if you love like old school Resident Evil and Silent Hill, you must play Signalis. It's a requirement for you.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Jeff, you're up, my man. It's real easy because you just gave us a runner-up. Although if you'd like to think of honorable mentions, you can.
Let's go, baby. Come on. Come on,
It's
Jeff.
good. I enjoyed other games, but I like to reserve this show for the stuff that really like, not change my life, but the stuff that really is going to stick with me for a long time. Yeah, it's Gran
It's my job
Turismo
to change your
7.
life.
Most people know I like games where you're in some kind of vehicle. I'm not big on just running around on your little feet. Gran Turismo 7 is
It's the cutest fucking thing.
Gran Turismo, I've played most of the series. I actually didn't get into it until the PS2. I didn't play the first 2 on the original PlayStation. I was more into like JRPGs at the time. So I played 3, 4, 5. It's well documented. The series has had its ups and downs. Some games took a long time to come out. A lot of them came out half-baked. I really think Gran Turismo 7 is the vision that they have been chasing since the first game came out 20 or 30 years ago. They have the technology finally to make it photorealistic. The physics are the best they've ever been. The actual racing is the best it's ever been. The AI is the best it's ever been. The online racing, I don't play a lot of online games, but they found a way to make it feel fair. There's some idiots out there playing bumper cars, but generally it's just very good quality, not dirty racing with other people who are serious about it. And it's a really fun mode. But there's something about Gran Turismo, and I love lots of racing games. I love Forza. I played a shit out of Drive Club. I love Need for Speed. There's something about Gran Turismo when you boot it up. It's like the combination of everything. It's like the elegant menus, and it's a little bit up its own ass, but it kind of
In the
has
best
earned it.
way. It's a work of art almost.
It is a work of art.
Yamauchi's
It's
an
the-
auteur, man.
It's the visuals and the music, and the PS5 has actually helped this a lot because the load times and menus were a big barrier, and other ones where it took a long time to get anywhere. But now it's like immediately there's this huge hub, and there's lots of things to do. You can do an online race, you can do like a time trial, you can do a regular race. But I have 260 hours in this game. I spent probably like 30 hours just taking pictures of my cars. I spent 5 hours making a Final Fantasy livery for a Honda Civic.
Yeah,
Like-
there you go.
Yes.
And I love it because and it's like what Britt mentioned, they added Island Sanctuary into Final Fantasy 14. I think I'm really starting to like when games add like something, an experience that's not the core game. It's like a nice break. Like Final Fantasy, when I'm tired of grinding daily roulette and stuff like that and just doing dungeons and constant combat, it's nice to have like a little oasis to go and just chill out for a little bit. And that's what I love about these modes in Gran Turismo is when my hands are just in pain and I'm icing them because I've been like clutching my triggers for 3 hours straight. I can just go into like the photo mode and pick some nice landscapes and just spend like fuckloads of time just positioning the camera and adjusting the lighting. And yeah, so I mean the game really has the whole package. I platinumed it, of course. Yeah, it's just like
Fucking
CJ said.
dog got startled and kicked the desk.
Like CJ said, it just really makes you appreciate and I'm like I don't give a I buy my car and I drive it. I'm not like a car person in real life, but in this game, I'm really interested in like the passion. I like hearing the stories about like the people who like put all this time and creativity and energy into creating these like really beautiful, elegant work. They are works of art, especially from an aesthetic point of view. So yeah, it's something that really makes you appreciate the form, and it's one of the best racing games ever made for sure.
Derek, now we're down to you, buddy.
Yeah, so I'll finish this up here. So my runner-up for Game of the Year was Elden Ring. Elden Ring was a big one for me this year. I think that in the grand scheme of things, kind of like John, well, almost a reverse of John, because like Hard Space Shipbreaker definitely deserved to be my personal Game of the Year. But I feel like Elden Ring is the game that defined 2022
It really
in so many
did.
ways.
Yeah.
That was the best time on Twitter was when everybody was
there
playing
was
Elden
a
Ring.
period
No
of
maidens?
time. There was a period of time where Elden Ring was the only game that existed. In fact,
Yeah,
it was
Peace was a
it
cheese.
was the only piece of pop culture that existed for a period of time. And that's impressive. That's like Pokemon Go levels of you took over the internet for a while. I think it was fantastic because like, look, I'm Souls trash, right? The last time I had an unhealthy relationship with like staying up too long to play a game was the launch of the original Dark Souls. I ended up staying up and playing that game for 36 hours straight.
My buddy.
It was not a good choice. No, don't encourage it. I've never done that since. It's
What you're
I
saying is
can't.
do that.
Isn't
Don't.
the game not even that long?
Well, I needed to start over with a new character build because I fucked up real bad.
yeah. Well, okay,
like
of course.
like
That makes
like
sense.
like 10 12 hours into the game
You did it
I was just
15
like this
times.
I was like this is not working for me. Anyway, but so like Elden Ring was always going to be a big one for me because I loved the Dark Souls games. I love the Dark Souls games like to the point where I'm actually not a big Bloodborne fan because I like Dark Souls. But I think what's really important to me about Elden Ring is the way that it influenced people to actually interrogate what it was that they liked about Elden Ring and what it was that felt different. I saw people who were usually not very good at communicating these sorts of things talking on Twitter, talking on real life, texting me, talking about like, I really like how the map feels very naturalistic, right? And I don't have icons and checklists of side quests and collectible things and collect 13 pages of the Constitution in this district like bullshit. Like the Assassin's Creed shit was gone. Instead, you had a map and the geography of the map and the layout of buildings and ruins and natural geographic features created a naturally interesting like places for you to check out and find things to do. And that seeing people, not only was that cool to experience, but seeing people recognize that and be able to explain that dynamic was so cool for me. In an industry where, like, let's be honest, most people who talk about video games are really fucking stupid. And they can't explain a goddamn thing about video games. Most
Except for
gamers.
So why do we have a
Except for us.
podcast then?
Well,
for us, we're
because
the exception.
well, we know we're not the smartest people around. Like, and we're also pretty measured usually. I know.
Yeah, I don't.
Like the
We're-
only thing we know how to talk about is video games.
I mean, the
That's
other
only
one's fine, but Derek,
Yeah.
me?
like that's the thing. We all know how to talk about video games.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot harder for most people to communicate like what makes a game good or bad. That what you're trying
Well,
to say,
yeah,
Derek?
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to say. Like, I'll just say the vast majority of people are really bad about talking about this kind of shit. And it was really cool to see that change because of Elden Ring. And I really hope that Elden Ring changes a lot about how future like game projects approach their open worlds. I don't want to see.
Discussion was interesting because like everyone was like, you know, the debate between God of War and Elden Ring has been like but everyone talked about again like Elden Ring truly introduced something new to like the masses. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone who played Breath of the Wild or Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of already like knew what to expect, but even then, like this
Yeah.
was the first time that
Well,
this kind of is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Breath of the Wild, like, it's a great example. Like, you know, that's a game that changed the way a lot of people approached what was a very stale format of game. So, you know, there's that. I've already spoken at length. We've all spoken at length about God of War Ragnarok, which is one of my honorable mentions. And we spent quite a bit of time on Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I just want to chime in with Justin on Midnight Suns. I beat Midnight Suns recently. I rolled credits at about 42 hours. Incredible game. Lots of good BioWare energy in this Fire Axis game. It's nowhere near as difficult as the XCOM games. It measures and adjusts its difficulty, like it level scales to where you are, so that you never feel like you need to grind. Like you can grind, you can get more shit. It's just going to get harder. And that's a difficult balancing act. But I feel like Fire Axis really nailed it. At no point did I feel like that difficulty curve was too much. And there's a lot of love for the comics in there, and a lot of love for the comics that felt independent from the popularity of the MCU. Like they didn't pick their roster because of Marvel movies, and they didn't portray characters the way they were in movies necessarily. They looked to the comics for inspiration, with the exception of Wolverine not being a short king. I'm getting real tired of tall Wolverine. We only accept short Wolverine hours.
5'2"?
He's 5'4" in the comics.
Yeah,
We're
5'4",
never going to get a 5'4" Wolverine in movies. That's not going to happen. But if you give me somebody who's under 6 feet, I'll be happy. But Wolverine was like the tallest person on the cast that wasn't Hulk, and that was just so weird to me. It's not acceptable. So, but yeah, them's
That's
my
why
picks.
it's just an honorable mention.
Right. If Wolverine had been a foot shorter, game of the year. Easy.
Comic accurate Wolverine would
Yeah.
make your game.
That's all I
of the year.
needed. If Wolverine had been a foot shorter and had like a Canadian accent instead of being like the generic Steve Bloom, I don't know. Steve Bloom could be Canadian. I don't know. He's
Kind of
putting
funny how
on
like Hugh Jackman fucked up like decades of like
everyone
yeah.
thinks Professor X is British because of
Charles, Patrick Stewart.
yes. So I try not to be a comic nerd about shit, but I am. So, but that's our Game of the Year show. Many good picks, a lot of variety
fucking
in our
done.
picks.
Well done
So-
indeed.
Shout out to
For
all
God
of
of
us,
War, but
for no
everybody
one
else, yeah.
picking Elden Ring for top spot. Y'all the real MVPs.
Yeah. It was my runner-up, damn it.
That was bait, Derek, and you didn't take it.
Anyway,
I bit my tongue.
so in summary, shout out to the Quiet Man. Shout out to
The Quiet Man.
Shout out to Babylon's Fall.
Yep.
Yo, Babylon's Fall actually came out in 2022, so that's SDGC's
Shout
game
out
of the
to
year.
Twisted
And
Metal
it's
Black.
about to get erased forever in like 3
Shout
weeks.
out to Battle Tanks, the actual true MVP of the year.
Shout out to Rampage for the
Rampage
greatest
Worlds.
loading screen.
That moving on load
we
screen.
need all the accolades, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kirby's Air Ride, the reason that Brit will
Yeah.
never get high again.
Will
Shout out to
never,
us discovering
never
Twisted
play-
Metal Black is a bad game.
So most of the games that we played were bad, to be fair.
That's true. That's true.
Like
but
we had a big awakening about our childhood, and it did not
Uh-huh.
feel great.
I tried to
It
pick a
did-
lot of shit, and it was not a good time. So,
No.
but
The real best game of the year was Crossfire X for the Xbox Series.
With
S
the
and
with,
X.
I
I
wouldn't know. I'd love to play the campaign, but they didn't put it on fucking PC.
with the dramatic version of X gonna give it to you by
Yeah,
DMX
right,
playing in the
right.
trailer.
Finn, I absolutely thought you were going to say Duck Game.
Yeah,
Duck
also
Game
that.
is the greatest game of any year.
That's the game of all years.
And also
Fucking
maybe
Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, baby. 3 years in a row.
one day, one of you, just one, could actually beat me in a round of Duck Game, but it certainly wasn't this year.
It's brutal.
Well, it wasn't. It definitely.
Can I-
It's not going to be me.
Although I'm gonna text everyone in the group chat that I have separate from Finn. We're not gonna invite him to next year's charity.
Finn, I
this year's charity
challenge
event.
you. I challenge you to a match of real life duck game.
Okay, done.
He's gonna
You
shoot
got
ducks
duck
with guns.
fighting.
Random fucking grenades and just launch.
John's just gonna pull out a fucking
gun.
revolver and shoot a duck.
Shoot Finn
Well,
off. And
No.
I assumed it was me and John would be
no,
dressed
Finn,
as
no,
ducks.
Finn.
That too,
Finn,
beating each
Finn,
other
Finn,
with bats.
Finn in the real life duck game.
That's just
we're the-
gang beasts.
We are the duck. We are
Also,
the-
shout out to
Gang
Mario
Beast.
Party 2.
Yeah.
Don't do. Fuck it, let's
John,
wrap
may
this
I
shit up.
may I
Goddamn
bring it
it.
home?
Yes,
Can I bring
please.
it home?
God,
All right.
end the charade.
Folks, this was lovely. It was good to talk about all of our favorite games of last year. We have an exciting year ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
Many big releases coming, but maybe, just maybe, the real game of the year was the friends we made
friendship.
along the way.
Yes.
Hell
Very
yeah.
proud of
That's the
you.
one time
I
I'm not
wanna
going to
get-
ding you for that.
I want to give a quick shout out to myself because I was first in our fantasy critic for like 2 days. So congratulations to me.
Hey,
Round of
Forspoken
applause
could
to
do
Brit,
it.
who was second to last last fantasy
Yeah.
critic. So
And John, who was in last.
woo!
Well, that's because John doesn't know anything about video games.
Well,
I
you know
was
what?
out to everyone.
Sometimes in life, to be first, you have to come in last. So
Sure.
I just want to say that
Golf
What did you
rules.
say?
I just want to say that I did win our league.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Justin.
Hell yeah, man.
Mood.
Folks, just remember, kindness costs nothing.
Yeah,
But
Justin.
But roasting the homies is also free. Night,
Oh,
everybody.
I don't want to be a homie anymore.